The massive screen in Times Square flickered to life, interrupting regular broadcasts across the globe. The image showed a tall, metallic being with multiple eyes arranged in a circular pattern. Behind it stood other creatures of various shapes and sizes, all wearing what appeared to be formal attire. "People of Earth," the metallic being announced, its voice translated into every major language simultaneously. "I am the High Speaker of the Galactic Council. Your world has been monitored for the past century, and we have determined that your species requires guidance." In the Pentagon's main command center, General Robert Walker watched the transmission with growing concern. Around him, military officials and politicians whispered among themselves, their faces pale with worry. "Earth's resources are being wasted by your primitive industrial methods," the High Speaker continued. "Your wars, your pollution, your inefficient use of energy. All of these demonstrate your need for superior oversight. The Council has voted. Earth will be incorporated into the Galactic Federation as a protectorate." President Thomas stood at his desk in the Oval Office, hands gripping the wooden edge until his knuckles turned white. "Get me every world leader on the line. Now." Within hours, an emergency United Nations session convened. The Council's massive ships hung in orbit, visible to the naked eye as bright spots in the daylight sky. Their presence cast literal and figurative shadows over every discussion. "We should attempt diplomatic relations," the British Prime Minister argued. "They clearly possess technology far beyond ours. A war would be devastating." The Russian president disagreed. "This is not a negotiation. Listen to their words. They have already decided our fate." He was right. Even as world leaders debated, smaller council ships began entering Earth's atmosphere. They positioned themselves above major cities, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. The High Speaker's next transmission came just 6 hours after the first. "Your leadership appears unable to reach a consensus. We will simplify the process. Resistance will result in unnecessary losses. Accept our guidance, and your transition will be peaceful." Military bases worldwide reported their weapons systems going offline. Communications satellites failed. Power grids flickered and died in patterns that matched the Council ship's movements. In New York, Tom Baker, a street photographer, captured the moment when the first Council ground forces appeared. They materialized in the middle of intersections, their armor making them look like walking tanks. Their weapons weren't pointed at anyone, but their presence alone was enough to send crowds running. "Remain calm," the Council troops broadcasted. "Continue your daily activities. We are here to establish order." But humans had never been good at following orders from self-proclaimed superiors. In Chicago, a group of police officers attempted to confront the alien forces. Their bullets bounced off energy shields, and in response, the Council troops released a wave of energy that left every human in a 3-block radius unconscious. By sunset of that first day, Council forces had established control centers in 30 major cities. Their efficiency was terrifying. Their technology made Earth's most advanced systems look like children's toys. General Walker stood in the ruins of the Pentagon's command center, watching as Council engineers simply walked through the walls as if they were holograms. They began installing their own equipment, ignoring the human military personnel as if they were furniture. "Sir," his aide whispered, "what do we do?" Walker watched as more ships descended through the clouds. "We wait," he said quietly. "We watch, we learn, and we remember that humanity has faced impossible odds before." The first day of Earth's occupation ended with a final broadcast from the High Speaker. Its multiple eyes seemed to stare into every human soul as it spoke. "Your incorporation into the Galactic Federation begins now. Your resources will be properly managed. Your population will be properly utilized. Your resistance has been anticipated and will be futile. The Council's decision is final. Tomorrow, you begin your new roles in service to a greater civilization." The screen went dark, leaving humans worldwide in silence, staring at their new reality. Unknown to the Council, this moment of apparent defeat was already planting the seeds of humanity's greatest triumph. But for now, Earth slept under alien ships, waiting for dawn and whatever it would bring. The first month under Council rule changed Earth more than 2 centuries of human progress. Work camps sprouted like metal mushrooms across every continent. The Council's construction units could erect massive structures in hours using technology that seemed to defy physics. Inside Work Camp 247, located in what used to be downtown Denver, Jack Wilson wiped sweat from his forehead as he hauled another load of minerals toward the processing center. Around him, hundreds of other humans performed similar tasks, their movements watched by hovering drones and tall, silent council overseers. "Move faster," the mechanical voice commanded from above. "Your species' inefficiency will not be tolerated." The council had divided humans into categories. The strong became laborers. The intelligent became research subjects. The rest were sorted into various support roles. Family units were broken up, with children being sent to special education centers where they learned to serve their new masters. In orbit, Earth's appearance was changing. Massive mining operations scared the surface. The Council's ships extracted resources with machines that could strip mine an entire mountain in days. The Amazon rainforest was reduced by half within weeks, replaced by enormous processing facilities. The air filtration systems will compensate for the loss of primitive oxygen production, the Council announced when humans protested. "Your environmental concerns are outdated." At the former United Nations building, now a Council Administrative Center, Dr. Mark Peters watched as aliens sorted through humanity's scientific achievements, like children examining primitive toys. "Your nuclear physics is crude," one council scientist said, its translator making the words sound even more condescending. "Your understanding of quantum mechanics is barely theoretical. You will learn proper science now." But not all humans accepted their new role quietly. In the rural areas of what used to be France, a farmer named Paul found a weakness. He discovered that council machines sometimes glitched when humans were extremely angry or afraid. He kept this observation to himself, but others were noticing too. The council's control methods were brutally efficient. Any sign of rebellion was met with immediate response. They didn't kill, that would waste resources. Instead, they used pain fields and memory modification. Humans learned that physical resistance was pointless against beings who could walk through walls and deflect bullets with energy shields. In Work Camp 173, built over the ruins of Sydney, Mary Cooper discovered something interesting. When she fell asleep during her shift, the nearby council monitoring device crashed. The overseer blamed faulty equipment, but Mary remembered the exact moment her mind had drifted into dreams. The council began establishing special facilities they called enhancement centers. Humans were taken there to be improved. They returned with blank stares and perfect obedience. But sometimes, in the dark hours of night, those enhanced humans would cry out in their sleep, and nearby council technology would mysteriously malfunction. 3 months into the occupation, the High Speaker made another global announcement. Earth's integration proceeds as calculated. Humanity's productivity has increased by 300%. Resource extraction exceeds projections. The Council is pleased with this progress. But in the depths of Work Camp 247, Jack Wilson watched a Council drone crash after he experienced a moment of intense rage. In the ruins of London, a group of humans noticed their overseer's discomfort during human prayer gatherings. In Brazil, a child's nightmare caused an entire council security system to reset. These incidents were small, seemingly random. The council, in their arrogance, didn't see the pattern. They were too busy congratulating themselves on their efficient subjugation of another primitive species. Tomorrow's shipment must increase by 20%, the overseer announced at Work Camp 247. The council demands better performance. Jack Wilson nodded obediently, hiding his trembling hands and the fierce hatred in his heart. As he did, the overseer's translator glitched for just a moment. It was a tiny thing, a small crack in the council's perfect system. But like many small cracks, it was about to become part of something much bigger. The Council had enslaved humanity's bodies, but they hadn't understood what they were really dealing with. They hadn't realized that the human mind was about to become their greatest nightmare. In the dark tunnels beneath Work Camp 247, Jack Wilson stared at the broken Council drone. It had crashed after his burst of anger, just like the others. He wasn't crazy. There was a pattern. "Show me again," said Commander Miller, a former military officer who now led a small group of hidden resistance fighters. They had made their base in abandoned subway tunnels, away from Council scanners. Jack focused on his anger, directing it at another captured drone. The machine buzzed, sparked, and went dead. The small group watching gasped. "It's not just anger," said Dr. Lisa Reed, one of the few scientists who had escaped enhancement. "I've been collecting data. Strong emotions, particularly fear and rage, create some kind of interference. But there's something else. Our brainwaves during sleep or deep concentration seem to affect their tech too." The resistance group had grown slowly over 3 months. They had people in every work camp now, watching and learning. The Council's biggest mistake was thinking broken humans wouldn't talk to each other. In another part of the tunnels, a young engineer named Mike worked on a strange device. He had stolen parts from Council machines, piecing them together with human electronics. "If their tech is sensitive to our brainwaves," he explained, "maybe we can amplify that effect." Above ground, the Council continued their work. They didn't notice when small pieces of equipment went missing. They blamed system failures on Earth's primitive environment. Their arrogance made them blind. "The human brain produces specific wave patterns," Dr. Reed explained to the resistance leaders. "These patterns seem to create interference with Council technology. Their machines weren't designed to handle human neural activity." Commander Miller leaned over the makeshift command table, studying a map of Council installations. "So if we could amplify these brain waves, their entire system could be vulnerable," Dr. Reed finished. "But we need more data. And we need to test this carefully. If they catch on too soon." The resistance developed a simple test. In work camps across the globe, humans began practicing meditation during their shifts. Council machines started failing more frequently. The overseers blamed poor maintenance and environmental factors. In the education centers, children were taught to be obedient. But at night, they shared stories of heroes and rebellion. During these storytelling sessions, security systems would mysteriously malfunction. Mike's device was ready for testing after weeks of work. It looked like a crude helmet made of scavenged parts. "It should amplify brainwaves," he explained. "But we need a volunteer." Jack stepped forward. "I'll do it." The first test nearly went wrong. When Jack put on the helmet and focused his anger, every piece of Council tech in a 100-meter radius exploded. The resistance had to quickly relocate before investigation teams arrived. But they had proved their theory. Human consciousness was poison to Council technology. Now they needed to find a way to use this discovery without alerting their oppressors. "We need to spread the word," Commander Miller said, "but carefully. Teach people to control their emotions, to direct them. We'll build more devices, but smaller, harder to detect." Dr. Reed worked on understanding the science behind their discovery. Their neural networks operate on completely different principles than our brains. When our neural patterns interact with their systems, it creates chaos in their processing. The resistance grew stronger each day. They developed hand signals and code words to identify each other. They passed information through seemingly innocent conversations. Most importantly, they learned to harness their emotions, to turn their minds into weapons. 1 month later, Mike had produced 50 smaller devices, each capable of amplifying human brainwaves. The resistance distributed them carefully, one work camp at a time. The Council remained ignorant of the true threat growing beneath their feet. They saw humans as simple labor units, incapable of meaningful resistance. They didn't realize that every human mind was becoming a potential weapon. In the tunnels, Commander Miller addressed his growing army. We're not ready to fight yet. But soon, very soon, we'll show them why you should never enslave a species you don't fully understand. Deep beneath the streets of what used to be Seattle, the human resistance had transformed old maintenance tunnels into a hidden city. The Council's scanners couldn't penetrate this far underground, especially with the natural mineral deposits interfering with their equipment. Dr. Reed stood in her makeshift laboratory, surrounded by stolen Council technology and human computers. On her workbench lay the latest version of their neural amplifier, now small enough to hide behind an ear. The range has improved, she explained to Commander Miller, and they're easier to produce. The underground network had grown beyond their expectations. Old mining shafts, subway tunnels, and natural caves across the world now housed thousands of freed humans. They called it the underground, and it was becoming more organized every day. "The Council's getting suspicious," reported Tom, a resistance spy who worked as a maintenance worker in the Council's main facility. "Their equipment failures are becoming too frequent to ignore. They're starting to increase security." Commander Miller nodded grimly. "Then we need to be more careful. No more random acts of rebellion. Every disruption must have a purpose now." In the training area, Jack Wilson taught new recruits how to control their emotions. "Anger is easy," he explained, "but focused anger, directed like a laser, that's what we need. Think about what they've taken from us, but don't let it consume you. Channel it." The recruits practiced with salvaged Council devices, learning to cause specific types of malfunctions. Some learned to crash simple systems, while others developed the ability to create more subtle disruptions that were harder to detect. Above ground, the Council continued their ruthless efficiency, but small things were changing. Their machines required more frequent repairs. Their neural networks experienced mysterious gaps. Their perfect system was developing imperfections. In one of the education centers, children were being taught Council-approved history when every screen in the building suddenly displayed static. The Council blamed technical issues, not realizing that the children had learned to project their defiance collectively. Mike had set up a workshop where he combined human and Council technology. "They think we're primitive," he said, working on a new device. "But sometimes primitive can be an advantage." They never bothered to shield their systems against simple electromagnetic interference, let alone human brainwaves. The resistance had developed a new strategy. Instead of direct confrontation, they focused on gathering intelligence and freeing small groups of humans from the work camps. Each freed person was carefully chosen: scientists, engineers, soldiers, and others with useful skills. Dr. Reed made another breakthrough. "Their neural networks operate on quantum principles," she explained to the resistance leaders. "But human consciousness creates patterns that disrupt quantum coherence. We're literally introducing chaos into their ordered systems." The underground had developed its own culture. People shared food, skills, and stories. They maintained hope by planning for freedom, teaching children about Earth's true history, and preparing for the day they would reclaim their world. But secrecy remained paramount. The Council's punishment for rebellion was severe, not death, but something worse. They would erase a person's mind, leaving behind an empty shell that would work until it wore out. "We're almost ready," Commander Miller told his officers during a strategy meeting. "The network extends under every major Council facility now. We have people in place throughout their system. When we strike, it has to be everywhere at once." In the work camps above, humans continued their forced labor, but now many wore hidden neural amplifiers. They waited patiently, gathering intelligence, testing the Council's defenses, and preparing for the signal. The Council remained proud of their efficient subjugation of Earth. Their reports to the Galactic Federation spoke of successful resource extraction and human compliance. They didn't realize they were sitting on a volcano of human resistance, one that was about to erupt. As Jack Wilson led another training session in the underground, he smiled at the progress they'd made. "The Council thinks they broke us," he told his students, "but they just taught us how to be stronger. And soon, very soon, the They're going to learn what that means. The first major sign that something was wrong came when an entire council processing facility in former Chicago suddenly shut down. Every system failed simultaneously, leaving the alien overseers in darkness. Unexplained technical failure, the council report stated. But the High Speaker felt uneasy. Similar incidents had begun occurring across the planet with increasing frequency. In Work Camp 247, Jack Wilson watched as his team executed their part of the resistance plan. During their shifts, they focused their amplified emotions on critical systems. Machinery broke down. Communication networks developed strange gaps. Security barriers flickered and failed. The humans are becoming less efficient, a council overseer reported to its superior. Production has decreased by 15% due to equipment failures. The overseer's own systems crackled with static as it spoke, though it didn't understand why. Dr. Reed's latest discovery spread through the underground like wildfire. Their quantum networks are especially vulnerable during shift changes, she explained. That's when they transfer vast amounts of data, if we time our disruptions right. The council noticed that their equipment worked perfectly until humans were nearby. They began isolating sensitive systems, but this only made their operations less efficient. Their perfect machine of control was developing cracks. In the education centers, the children had learned to act as one. During their daily propaganda sessions, dozens of young minds would focus together, causing massive system failures. The council couldn't understand why their technology worked perfectly in testing, but failed during use. Commander Miller coordinated the resistance's efforts from the underground. "We're past the point of hiding," he told his officers. "Now we make them afraid to keep their machines near us at all." The council's first real fear began when their ships started failing. Massive vessels that had hung in Earth's orbit for months suddenly lost power when passing over populated areas. Several crashed into the ocean, their quantum drives disrupted by coordinated human brainwave attacks. "This cannot be coincidence," the High Speaker announced to the council leadership. "The humans must be responsible, but their technology is primitive. How are they doing this?" In response, the council began their most aggressive campaign of human enhancement yet. They took thousands to their processing centers, attempting to erase their ability to resist. But even their mind-wiping technology began to fail. During one such enhancement procedure, every human in the facility focused their hatred simultaneously. The resulting surge destroyed not just the facility's systems, but the neural networks of the council members present. The aliens fled in terror, experiencing emotion for the first time in their logical existence. The underground now housed millions. Every day, more humans escaped the work camps, bringing with them more knowledge of council weaknesses. The aliens' perfect control was crumbling. Their entire civilization is built on quantum technology, Dr. Reed explained to the resistance leadership, and human consciousness naturally disrupts quantum states. "We're not just fighting their machines, we're fighting the very foundation of their power." The council tried to adapt. They attempted to shield their technology, to operate from a distance, to find ways to suppress human brain activity. But nothing worked. Their own arrogance had led them to integrate their vulnerable systems too deeply into every aspect of their operation. Jack Wilson stood in a former work camp, now abandoned by its alien overseers after too many unexplained accidents. "They thought they could treat us like simple animals," he told the freed workers. "They never considered that our minds might be more powerful than their machines." The council's fear grew into terror as they realized the truth. Every human was a potential weapon against their technology. Their perfectly ordered society had no defense against the chaos of human consciousness. In orbit, council ships began retreating to higher altitudes, trying to escape the influence of the humans below. But even there, they found their systems failing. Humanity's resistance had grown too strong to contain. The High Speaker faced a terrible realization. They had not conquered Earth. They had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. And now, their own technology was becoming their prison. The day of reckoning was approaching, and for the first time, The Council knew true fear. The global uprising began at dawn. In every work camp, in every Council facility, humans activated their neural amplifiers simultaneously. The effect was devastating. Council ships fell from the sky like metal rain. Their quantum drives, confused by the massive wave of human consciousness, simply stopped working. The proud alien vessels crashed into oceans or crumbled into deserts, their advanced technology useless against the unified minds of billions of humans. Emergency protocol failure, the Council's main computer announced before going dark. In their command center, the high speaker watched in horror as every screen went blank. For the first time in Council history, they were blind. Commander Miller led the assault on the main Council facility in former New York. He didn't need weapons. The humans simply walked in, their focused minds disrupting every defense system. The aliens tried to fight back with their energy weapons, but even these failed in the presence of concentrated human brainwaves. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," a Council scientist screamed as its systems crashed around it. "The quantum field is collapsing. This is impossible." Dr. Reed, monitoring from the underground, watched the energy readings spike across the globe. "Their entire network is failing," she reported. "The quantum entanglement that powers their civilization is breaking down everywhere humans are present." In the education centers, the children rose up. Years of secret training paid off as they turned their young minds against their captors. Council overseers fled in terror as their neural networks overloaded, experiencing emotion for the first time. Fear. Jack Wilson led a team into the enhancement center where his family had been taken. They found the Council's processing machines in ruins, sparking and useless. The aliens who had operated them cowered in corners, their perfect logical minds shattered by exposure to raw human emotion. "This is impossible," the high speaker broadcasted on emergency channels. "You are primitive. You cannot defeat superior technology." But even as it spoke, its transmission system failed. Silenced by the human minds, it had dismissed as simple and weak. The Council tried to regroup in orbit, but found no safety there. Humans had learned to project their influence further than ever before. Solar satellites turned against their masters. Communication arrays went dark. The quantum network that had connected their galactic empire began to unravel. In former London, Mike led a team that captured the first Council ship intact. "Their technology is ours now," he announced over the Resistance network. "And we understand it better than they do. We know its weaknesses." The Council's perfect order descended into chaos. Their carefully calculated plans meant nothing in the face of human unpredictability. Ships that tried to escape found their navigation systems corrupted by human thought patterns. Weapons designed to subdue turned against their users. "You never understood what you were enslaving," Commander Miller announced through a captured Council broadcasting system. "You thought we were simple biological units. But the human mind is the most powerful force in this galaxy, and you just taught us how to use it." The aliens who had once walked through walls like gods now found themselves trapped by their own technology. Their neural interfaces, designed to connect them to their machines, became channels for human emotional influence. Many went mad, experiencing the full range of human feelings they had evolved away from eons ago. Dr. Reed made another discovery during the uprising. "Their entire species evolved to rely on quantum technology," she explained. "They lost their connection to the chaos of nature. But that chaos is what makes us strong. Our minds still hold that primordial power." The Council's defeat was total. In less than 24 hours, their control over Earth had shattered. Their survivors huddled in broken ships and ruined facilities, their perfect logic unable to comprehend how primitives had destroyed their power so completely. As the sun set on the first day of freedom, Commander Miller stood in the former Council command center. "Send a message to any Council forces still in the solar system," he ordered. "Tell them Earth is now under human control. And warn them, we're not done yet. The galaxy will learn that enslaving humanity was their biggest mistake." In orbit, the remaining Council ships fled in panic, carrying word of their defeat to the galaxy. Humanity had not just won their freedom. They had revealed themselves as a force that would change the cosmic order forever. 1 month after the uprising, Earth had changed beyond recognition. Humans now controlled the Council's advanced technology, but used it in ways the aliens had never imagined. In the former Council Command Center, now Earth's Unity Hub, Commander Miller met with leaders from around the world. The massive quantum displays showed hundreds of former Council ships, now crewed by humans, patrolling the solar system. "We've received another distress signal," Jack Wilson reported, standing before the gathered leaders. "Another enslaved species seeking help, this time from the Centauri sector." Dr. Reed, now head of Earth's Advanced Research Division, pulled up data on the main screen. "We've modified 50 ships with our neural amplification technology. We can send a liberation fleet within the week." The Council's defeat had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Other enslaved species, hearing of Earth's victory, began their own rebellions. But they needed humanity's help. Only human minds could disrupt the Council's quantum networks so completely. "The Council's empire is collapsing," Mike announced, showing tactical displays. "Their own technology is turning against them everywhere. They never created safeguards against biological neural patterns because they never thought they needed to." In orbit, the former Council mothership, now renamed Freedom, prepared for its first mission. Its quantum drives have been modified to work in harmony with human consciousness rather than being disrupted by it. The ship hummed with power as its human crew prepared to assist another enslaved world. The High Speaker, now held in a specially designed cell, watched in disbelief as humans mastered technology that had taken the Council millennia to develop. "How?" it asked its guards. "How did primitives surpass us so quickly?" "Because you gave us no choice," Commander Miller told it during an interrogation. "You forced us to evolve, to adapt, to become stronger. You taught us about your technology while trying to enslave us. Your greatest weakness was thinking you had none." Earth's cities were rebuilt using a combination of human ingenuity and Council technology. The work camps were demolished, replaced with centers for learning and advancement. The education centers were transformed into schools where children learned to use their mental abilities alongside normal studies. "We're getting reports from the Galactic core," Jack announced during a strategy meeting. 3 more species have overthrown their Council overseers. Our neural amplification technology is spreading." The Council's mighty empire, built over thousands of years, crumbled in months. Their perfectly ordered society had no defense against the chaos and strength of organic minds they had dismissed as inferior. Their own ships, their own networks, their own quantum technology became tools of their destruction. Dr. Reed made the final breakthrough that sealed humanity's victory. "We've learned to encode human neural patterns into quantum fields," she explained to Earth's leaders. "We can now project human consciousness across light years. The Council's entire network will never be safe from us again." The former slaves became allies. Species that had suffered under Council rule for generations found freedom with humanity's help. Earth became a beacon of liberation, a symbol of hope for oppressed beings across the galaxy. Commander Miller stood on the observation deck of the Freedom, watching Earth grow smaller as they headed to their next liberation mission. "They thought they could break us," he said to his crew. "Instead, they showed us our true strength. The human mind isn't primitive. It's the most sophisticated weapon in the universe." The Council's surviving members retreated to their home system, their mighty civilization reduced to a shadow of its former glory. They lived in fear of human ships appearing in their skies, of their technology turning against them, of the species they had called primitive but had proved to be far more powerful than they could have imagined. Earth's final message to the Council was brief. "We could destroy you completely. We could enslave you as you enslaved us. But we choose not to. Remember this mercy, and remember what happened when you thought you could break the human spirit." And so the galaxy entered a new age. Humanity led not through force or technological superiority, but through the power of the mind and the strength of the spirit. The Council's greatest mistake had become the universe's greatest revolution. The age of human freedom had begun.